Welcome to the channel. This is Yves Moliva, the Human Special Coach. The topic of the day is the power of self love and how it can transform your life. Now, how would I define self love? The idea of self love that concept was very foreign to me for the majority of my life. Growing up as a child, being raised Christian, the idea of love was always present, but in the Christian teachings, it was more focused on loving others and others and others, and the idea of self was actually never really present, right? So, and most of my life growing up as a child, it was just me and the world and my relationship with basically everything in the world, right? I had never any idea of having a relationship with myself. It's almost like the self was something that was a given and something that was just there and something that I just wasn't paying attention to. It's almost like I was wired to pay attention to everything else but the actual self. And being raised where I was raised, it's something that everyone was seemed to be operating in that fashion, and the idea of self was like never really present. And like I say, I have relationship with friends, with my parents, with my teachers. I mean, with just basically everyone. And in those relationships, over time, you start to learn the value of relationships and also the importance of relationships. And as part of being a human being, and we are social beings, so relationships with others is something that we actually is part of our being and part of experience and something that we crave. But the idea of the relationship with the self, once again, is something that it doesn't come as a natural. And once again, I was too busy focusing, building relationship with others. And it wasn't until like a few years ago that actually the idea of the self and the self relationship, the self love actually came into the picture. And it came actually by accident. I spoke to a lot of friends, which they seem to have a strong understanding of the self and the self love. And they mentioned to me that they got there from working with therapists and such and such. Now they have a strong understanding of the self and the relationship of with the self. But for me, when I started cannabis when I was like 37. So it was like I was a late in the cannabis game. But when I started cannabis, immediately I had this magical experience. And the idea of self and self love became very clear after my experience with cannabis. It's almost like cannabis showed me, hey, you have relationships with all of these things in your life, but look here. And it's almost like it created a very clear picture for me, and then after that my understanding of the self and self-love completely increased to a point that today I value that relationship with the self, which is a very 4 years old. It's a very new experience for me, but it has transformed my life completely. And it also made me understand that after I understood the presence of the self and the relationship with the self, I realized it's probably the most important relationship that I could ever have in my life. More relationship, more important than I believe even the relationship with my parents, my siblings. I don't have kids, but the relationship with the self, I believe it's the most important relationship that I can have in my life. So once I start to understand the self as this person within me, it's almost like an inner child that is always been there within you, and that's also looking for some love coming from you. The thing is, for the most part, growing up, right, I made a video on the importance of the parents to be very encouraging for the kids at especially at those vulnerable ages, so that the kid can build a strong self-image. And I think I was one of those kids that didn't necessarily have a strong self-image. And it's almost like I looked at myself in the mirror and I always find something, or I have a big head or whatever. And to me, I didn't really realize that, like, especially around those ages where you are vulnerable and you don't, it's happening unconsciously. And you see the pressure from being social and trying to be accepted, appreciated. We start being very harsh on ourselves. Maybe we don't appreciate the looks that God gave us, right? But in that lack of appreciation, it's actually punching yourself down. And whether you think about it or not, you're actually creating scars within yourself, because that little inner voice that's within yourself that just want to be loved and be appreciated by you. Similar to how you look up to your parents. You look up to your parents and they, basically they're like almost gods. And that's why it's important for parents to really give that love and encouragement to the kids. It's so important for the development of the child. But deep within you, there's also that inner child that is looking up to you and that want to be loved and appreciated as you are. I know we all come with different shapes and form, but when you can truly appreciate yourself as you are, yes, you have a big head. So what? You are the most beautiful person with this big head. You know, to me, when you can truly appreciate yourself like that, that's truly when you are able to love yourself and also have peace within yourself. So my experience with the self-love, which is 4 years old, allowed me to reconnect with myself. And there was a lot of scars that there was a lot of scars that I've just for my for my lack of self-love. There was a lot of scars that that was just piling up from over the years. And thanks to cannabis, I was able to see that, and I was able to zoom the my attention into myself. And from there, I was truly able to see who I truly am, not just what the world was thinking of me. And by allowing myself to look into myself, I started to discover more of who I am. And I was very impressed by what I found out, and immediately I started to gain self, I started to gain respect of myself, of what I saw. And I started to almost like I fall in love with myself because I start to see the person that I truly am. So self love is a magical experience because if you can slow down and pay attention to what's happening inside and connect with that inside and truly love that inside unconditionally, love yourself unconditionally, whether you think you are ugly or broke or whatever, it doesn't matter. As long as you can truly love yourself and respect yourself, the self respond very well to that. And I think that's where the true peace and true joy start. It starts from within. Once you have a peace and joy from within, it kind of radiates, and that peace and love can actually extend to others, but it starts with the self. I think a lot of us in our human experience, we don't have any relationship with the self. And there's a lot of self abuse that's going on from the lack of self love. It's happening at the unconscious level. And because of that, right, that lack of self love actually radiates because we are hurting ourselves on a constant base. You don't like what you see on the mirror. You don't like, and it's pain that you actually living under. And because of the lack of self love, some people are maybe great at acting out, but inside, the inner self knows that what's up. And that lack of love also radiate and extend onto others. And then we start hurting others because we are hurt from the inside. So it's very important to stop for a second and look inside the mirror and start asking yourself those questions. Do you like what you see? Do you appreciate who you are? Do you know who you are? If the question is no, that you don't like what you see or you don't appreciate who you are, right? Maybe you should start giving yourself a second chance. And it's not about changing the self. It's about looking at the self as is and truly embracing it and truly encouraging the self and loving it as is. To me, that is true self love. And from there, that's the only place where you can actually start experiencing the true self and tap into the real potential. It has nothing to do with material, it has nothing to do with money and fame. This is basically because we see in life how we're looking as human beings. We're here for this experience of being a human. So I'm a true believer that we're here for the enjoyment, the fun, and the peace in our hearts. And until you have connected with yourself and you have found that self-love, it's going to be hard to really have that peace, because it doesn't matter how much money you have, how much fame you have, if there are no self-love or awareness of the self. You wonder, we see so many stories of people with so much money but with zero happiness. Some of them even commit suicide. But yet you'll find some people with zero money, but they have an extreme appreciation of the self and the life. And basically, that joy is wow. It's there's no money in the world that can tap what true joy is. I take that there's no money in the world that can, to in my eyes, be above true joy. I take that anytime, even if it means I'm a homeless person, but I have the true joy. I'll pick that versus I'm being super rich and I don't have joy. So that's basically it for the video. Look look into reconnecting with yourself. If it's something that is not new, that is new to you, look into that and understand that there's an inner voice, an inner child within you, an inner child which is that true self of you that was even prior you start having experience with life. There's this being that's within you, and that's looking for love, all right, from coming from yourself. As a child, that love is supposed to come from the parents, and a lot of time when it's not there, right, it affects the child. But as you grow up, you might have sustain self love, but you can always redirect and regain access to yourself and love. It starts by paying attention, and these are powerful spiritual things that allows you to connect with yourself. And trust me, the true peace is within you, and that voice, that inner self, is just the biggest thing is looking from you is your appreciation and unconditional love. This is all I had for the self-love video. Remember, once you connect with yourself, it truly transforms your experience as a human being. I truly believe all of a sudden your true beauty comes out, and people from the outside can see that radiate, and I believe you're going to start also attracting more things that you want in your life because you are truly self and you appreciate yourself, and this is a radiant energy, right? And once you move like that, right, you're not going to tolerate any more disrespect from anybody. You're going to let it be known you don't accept that because you have that self-love that you are defending. And the self-love is normally is connected to your values as well. And once you hear from this position, you're not going to tolerate any more disrespect, and you're going to be fierce with the self-love in defending it, and the rest of the world is going to respond. And and I'm telling you, the life that is meant for you, you're going to more tap into that. uh, Thanks for watching, and I hope the video makes sense.